All right. Hold on. All right, I think it's going. Trying something a little different with Telegram. It says live stream started. All right, I think it's going. Trying something a little different with Telegram. No, it says live stream started. All right, I think it's going. Trying something a little different with Telegram. No, it says live stream started. All right, I think it's going. Trying something a little different with Telegram. No, it's live stream started. All right, I think it's going. Trying something a little different. I don't know how to turn my sound off on that. I don't know how to turn my sound off on that. All right. Well, good evening, folks. We'll make this work, I think. If it's too much of an interference, I'll just stop the Telegram. All right. Well, do it the other way. We'll make this work, I think, because I can't figure out how to. If it's too much of an interference, I'll just stop the Telegram. All right. Well, do it the other way. Kill the audio, because I can't figure out how to. If it's too much of an interference from my own stream feeding back to me. So, anyways, well, welcome to Monday Night Law here. This is August 28th, 2023. August is just about gone, folks. Anyways, well, welcome to Monday Night Law here. This is August 28th. So tonight I want to talk about the lockdowns coming back and what we can do to defend ourselves here. So tonight I want to talk about following the law, due process of law. Now, for those that are not aware, I had two cases. So tonight I want to talk about following the law. Yes, I got arrested on one, right? For those that are not aware, but I had two cases. Well, technically speaking, I didn't get arrested. Yes, I got arrested on one, right? For those that are not aware, both of them were citations. The one they did issue a warrant for the arrest, but it was a weird situation on that. But citation. Yeah, for not wearing a mask. The one they did issue. Right, trespassing. Is what the actual charge was trespassing. But yeah, and for not wearing a mask. Both of them got dismissed. Trespassing. I'm probably one of the rarest ones out there that got their cases dismissed. Both of them got dismissed. Okay. I'm probably one hi CC, hi Jax, hi Karen. That got their cases dismissed. Both Facebook and YouTube out there. Hi CC, hi Jax. Diesel D's, what's happening, brother? Hi Corey, good to see you, brother. Pennsylvania. Diesel D's, what's happening, brother? Crap, forgot what I was just gonna say there. Corey, good to see you, brother. Oh well. Pennsylvania. Maybe it'll come back. Diesel D's, what's happening, brother? Crap, forgot what I was just gonna say there. Corey. Still hearing the repeat in the background. Maybe it'll come back. Diesel D's, what's happening, brother? Crap, forgot what I was just gonna say there. Yeah. Still hearing the repeat in the background. I think I'm going to cancel that on Telegram. Hold on tight, folks. Yeah. Still hearing the repeat in the background. I think I'm going to cancel that on Telegram. Hold on tight, folks. Unless, hold on. Now, how's that? Yes, it was getting feedback from Telegram. So hopefully the live stream, yeah, I guess live stream is still going over there on Telegram, right? I just left what was broadcasting for me, rebroadcast to basically capture and broadcast. So hope that fixed that. Art, how you doing, brother? Good to see you on here. No, it's internal, Cody. It was, the broadcasting software is designed to capture my audio of what what I play. Like I'm going to play a video here, and it's going to capture that audio and it broadcasts that audio as well. So it was just capturing what was being rebroadcasted on Telegram. So I've got it set up a little bit different tonight, all going through everything. Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and Telegram are all going through my broadcasting software now. So it's just basically a couple of clicks and it goes. So with that being said, anyways, this lockdown stuff's coming again, and it's unlawful, right? We should all by now know this is just a garbage, right? So I kind of want to talk a little bit about what I did to effectively defend myself and what we can do to even, we need to shut this down right away. The second it starts breaking out, we need to be all over this. And again, this is where we have to comprehend the meaning of standing and cause of action. So unless it directly affects you, technically speaking, you don't have standing to claim a right to a cause of action. And then the cause of action you take, the action that you take, must be in the proper jurisdiction. So for certain subjects, right, the judicial branch lacks jurisdiction. So therefore, you can't have standing in the judicial branch if the judicial branch lacks subject matter jurisdiction. Now, there's some people out there that do not quite grasp this concept, which I understand, right? The thing is we've all been lied to. We've all been taught that if we got any problems, we go through the judicial branch. That's just where we go. That's what we do. But that's not what the Constitution says, as it is written. And that's not what our rights dictate. Okay? The real law. Rights as the law dictate this process and proper jurisdiction. Which branch of the government has what powers to do what as we instruct them? Because remember, fundamentally and principally, we're the masters, they're the servants. Oh, well, that's some sovereign citizen stuff. No. Again, I'll cite Idaho Code, Title 74, subsection 201. The people of the state of Idaho, in creating the instruments of government that serve them, do not yield their sovereignty to the agency so created. Oh, that totally destroys that sovereign citizen argument. And then as well as, they're the citizens. We're the people, sovereign man, right? Because God is the sovereign. Sovereign means creator. So therefore, God is the sovereign who creates mankind, who created the heavens and the earth. He is the lawmaker because he is the creator. Now, to apply this to governmental, this is why the people are the sovereign body politic, the power to create government. I don't know how many people know this power. This is the power that Trump was referring to at his initial inauguration speech in 2017. That he was putting the power back into the people's hands. All political power. All of it. Not some of it, not most of it, but all of it. All of it. And we have the right to alter, reform, or abolish anything at any time we deem it necessary. We don't need to seek their permission. The citizens are the city servants, civil servants, the members of a civil society who are bound to perform certain duties and are subject to its law jurisdiction. That's the Law of Nations, Book 1, Chapter 19, subsection 212, the definition of a citizen as a proper noun. Them persons, president, governor, vice president, lieutenant governor, secretary of state. Those are all persons that are created by the people, the sovereign body politic, that create the instruments of government that serve them. Right? Of the people, by the people, for the people. Not of the corporation, by the corporation, for the corporations. Okay? So, we have this power. All of it. We need to learn how to wield this power. Exercise the power. We're at war. Again, make no mistake, we are at war. World war. Okay? And this is just one little battle. And if you're going to go into battle, don't you think that you better be properly equipped and know how to wield that double-edged sword? Because that's what we're talking about here, is our tongues are sharper than a double-edged sword. And if you're going to go into battle, you have to know the law. You have to know how to, knowledge is power, right? Once you have the knowledge, you literally get empowered. Believe me, I'm speaking from experience. This knowledge that I've gained by reading and reading and reading and reading, way better than going into 2 years of law school, which doesn't teach the law. They don't teach any of the 99% of the stuff that I've read, they don't teach in so-called law school. That's bar school, who teaches code, the Roman civil law, code pleadings, and case law, stare decisis. No, I'm talking real law. One, God's law. From God's law, maxims of law, the common law, rights as the law. Then we can get into the Constitution, which is law of the land, which literally means due process of law. So, again, the Constitution is the instrument of government, but it's also due process of law. Law of the land literally means due process of law. It's the process to bring the president into being. It gives all the requirements, when it's supposed to be done, all of the elements of qualifications to run for the office of president. That's the process for bringing the president into being. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. I need it to make sense because that dictates the process. And then you have things like bills of rights, which are merely declaratory of the common law, the law that is common to all mankind. What kind of man are you? Man or man with a womb? Womb man. I don't know why it is so difficult to define what a woman is. It just blows my mind listening to some of the House Oversight Committee hearings. Is that well, can you tell us what a woman is? Well, I'm not a medical expert. Good Lord. Where did this ideology and concept come from that everybody needs to go to school to learn something? Again, this goes back to, my going saying is, do you need to hit your thumb with a hammer to know that it's going to hurt? Do you need to go to school and have somebody teach you that, hey, if you hit your thumb with a hammer, it's going to hurt? You may lose a nail. You may bust a bone in there, which there's not a whole lot they can do for your phalanges, fingers, and toes. That's what phalanges are. So, there's not a whole lot they can do for that. But do you need to go to school to be taught that? Or do you have enough common sense up here to know that it's going to hurt if you hit your thumb with a hammer? Now, likewise, 2 maxims of law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Try going into court and say, well, I don't know the law. Well, ignorance of the law is no excuse. You can't claim that you didn't know that murder was unlawful. You can't claim that you didn't know that stealing was unlawful. You can't claim that you didn't know that lying was unlawful. You can't claim that acts of violence is unlawful. Law, full of law, real law, right? Thou shalt not commit murder. Because God is the creator and God dictates that law. The sovereign. We are endowed by the sovereign with sovereignty. But We need to learn that. Right, CC? I learned from the experience that it hurts. Well, I knew that it was going to hurt before it happened. It just happens sometimes. Uh-oh. All right, so just checking Telegram stuff here. It shows that it's on Telegram. It shows that it's there. And Rumble is, yeah, Rumble's good. Telegram, it shows that it's there. And Rumble, all right, should be good. All right. Okay, so without further ado, let's check out this video here. Hopefully this works good here. If I click on the share sound, it should go through. Okay, here we go.
Are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep.
A new COVID-19 variant is spreading quickly throughout the United States, and the World Health Organization says EG.5 poses a similar level of global risk as existing variants.
We're seeing new evidence that the COVID cases, they are ticking up across the country. Oh, no. While the experts say there is no reason to panic, the test positivity rate has shot up since June after steady declines since the beginning of the year. Good news is the new boosters are on the way. They are strongly recommended for people who are at high risk.
COVID is making a comeback this summer, so many of us would like to leave it in the past, but cases again on the rise. So when will new booster shots roll out?
What's creepy about this sudden everywhere narrative that there's a new variant in town? It's not your last variant. You need a whole new thing to deal with the new variant. And if you read these news articles carefully, and they all read like they were generated by AI, but if you read them carefully, there was one we just tore apart in our local Salem, Massachusetts newspaper that basically admitted there really isn't a spike and didn't come up with any real numbers. They said something like there are 2 new cases per 100,000, and they referenced a community that has only 22,000 inhabitants in it. So they're imaginary numbers. And again, you can't check them. It's the same problem I highlighted in The Bodies of Others, Natalie, that you can't see the data sets. You're not allowed to see the data sets. You can't verify this claim that there's an uptick. What is an uptick, right? How do you define an uptick? The uptick is the theme music before what comes later, which is the surge. How do you define a surge? You can't check any of these claims that there's a new variant in town that's different from the old variant. You just have to take their word for it. But what is very notable is that in June, an FDA panel, I just want to remind you, and this is via the brilliant and amazing Amy Kelly, in June, an FDA panel unanimously voted to recommend that the next round of vaccination in the U.S. be approved. So these vaccinations aren't approved yet, but the committee that recommends vaccines to the FDA for approval has already recommended them, and they're expected to be approved by the FDA and available just in time by next month. So you've got 1 month, if you're marketing this new product, to whip up fears that will then drive people to take this new untested, untried product into their bodies. We don't have those trials for this new injection. And this is not just Moderna and Pfizer, who are now thoroughly discredited, but also Novavax. I just want people to remember that infection depends on your immune system.
Hi, Steve here. All of this news is not news to me or anyone else in the alternative media field. And after 3 years of being able to hear other people for most American businesses, have you ever fallen or a compromise in? For those who compromise, this next is called a mandate from your employer or the government. For many, it will be the last time they compromise on anything. Think about it.
As most of us have feared, the lockdowns are coming back. Federal officials from the TSA and from the U.S. Border Patrol have contacted and revealed that the Biden administration is now setting the stage for full COVID lockdowns. The whistleblowers told us that they will begin in mid-September with incremental restrictions such as masking TSA employees, and then masking other government employees, and then masking non-government workers, and then masking everyone. Fires and floods are everywhere, and our billionaire ruling class are now being very open about their plans to lock us all down again in order to save humanity.
One thing that maybe surprised you most, something you learned the last year?
The pandemic was bound to occur, and this isn't the worst.
The mask mandates are coming back. The lockdowns are returning. Will you comply, or will you stand together against this decrepit old tyranny that seeks to rule over us all? Now is the time to make that decision.
Now is the time to make that decision, folks. And I'm hoping that a lot of you that have been following me have already kind of got a basic understanding of this stuff and already have understanding of what your rights are, right? We get that, right? We should all understand our rights. Got to tuck my collar in. Okay, so I don't give a damn about any WHO or the United Nations or any kind of three-letter agency, any unlawfully created agency. So the fact is we're talking about the laws of nature. Okay? And we have to follow due process of law. You know, so many times we hear out there people talking about how they're violating our rights to due process of law. Violating my rights to due process of law. Okay. But we need to make sure that we're following due process of law so that we're not violating their rights to due process of law. Due process of law applies equally to all. Okay? So we need to make sure that we are prepared to go into this battle. Okay? Does that make any sense? And that's where we should all be getting after the first go around. Okay? Like I have the proof that I did a public records request from Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, demanding proof of COVID-19's existence from a deceased patient, which means, oh yeah, all these people died from COVID, and then proof that the PCR test can be used for that because that's what they used. Say, oh yeah, positive this, positive that. No. No such records exist. They have absolutely no white papers, no scientific tests proving the existence. Doesn't exist. To quote Robert Kennedy Jr., is that these things only exist in people's minds and on paper. They don't actually exist out here in nature. It's not really among us. Okay. So the reality here is It's all fraud. It's a scheme, scam, and a fraud. Okay? Now, let's take a look at this. If it will.
Our impulses are being redirected.
We're going to take a look at the English Bill of Rights of 1689. Okay, this is basically the results of a war out of around 1682-ish. Okay, an act declaring the rights and liberties of the subject and settling the succession of the crown. So there was basically an overthrow of the crown. Now, this is one of those places I like to point out persons. Right? If ever the year of the Lord ever says, present unto their majesties, then called and known by the names and style. Pay attention to that. Names and style. Of William and Mary, Prince and Princess of Orange. That's the person. Being present in their proper persons. That's that style. The name is William and Mary. The proper person is Prince and Princess of Orange. Oh. Impropria persona. Personal jurisdiction. Do they have personal jurisdiction over man? No, they do not. Never delegated that. That's from the laws of nature, the law of nations even. Man is to be free and independent of all things created by his fellow man. Oh, that's right. Without his own consent. You can't force a man to comply with the edicts of another man. Then we're not free, we're not equal, we're not independent. And it violates the fundamental principles of the laws of nature. God's law. How God created us and intended us to be. That's the key to all of this right here at the very root of everything, is knowing where our rights come from. They're not constitutional rights. They're not even civil rights. They're natural rights and political rights. The word civil is all part of that Roman civil law, the code. Now, I've showed this before. Right out of Bouvet's Law Dictionary. Law, civil is the Roman civil law. And they consider more of a privilege than a right. And you only have those as they dictate to us. No. This has been the fight for the test of time for a long time. No, we have these rights from God, not from man. And we don't want to be subject to the king. We don't want rulers. We want servants. We want to be self-governed. We don't want an armed body of men using force and violence against us, trying to dictate to us what we have to do, what we can or cannot do, and enforcing bills of attainder, color of law, statutes are color of law. Okay? That's not law. It appears like, they say, it's statutory law. No, forget the word law. Statutes are policy. It's not law. And it only applies to that which it creates, which is corporations, incorporated into the body politic, an actual business license or contract. Imagine that. But anyways, what's going on here in 1689? Whereas the late King James II, by the assistance of divers evil counselors, judges, and ministers employed by him, did endeavor to, what? subvert and extirpate the Protestant religion and the laws and liberties of this kingdom. Oh, by what? By assuming and exercising the power of dispensing with and suspending of laws and the execution of laws without consent of Parliament. Now, in today's time, we call that legislature. By committing and prosecuting divers worthy prelates for humbly what? Petitioning to be excused from concurring to the said assumed power. Oh, you mean that they actually petitioned in 1689? That's right. This right to petition is as old as the Magna Carta. Okay. By issuing and causing to be executed a commission of the Great Seal for erecting the court called the Court of Commissioners for Ecclesiastical causes. Hey, you commonwealths and like California and Pennsylvania there, Court of Commissioners. Hello? That's foreign to our form of government and repugnant to our law. By raising and keeping a standing army within the kingdom in time of peace without consent of Parliament and quartering soldiers contrary to law. By causing several good subjects being Protestants to be disarmed at the same time, while Papists were both armed and employed contrary to law. We're not supposed to have standing armies, armed bodies of men, fundamentally and principally. The people are the ones that have the right to keep and bear arms, which shall not be infringed, which means no legislative authority. So that means all legislation is void for any effect because they don't have subject matter jurisdiction. Can they create legislation and regulate any one of our rights? No. No, 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 no. They don't have personal jurisdiction over man, and they do not have subject matter jurisdiction over any of our rights. There is no delegation of power. None. Okay? So it's almost like we're being subjected to the same stuff again. By violating the freedom of election of members to serve in Parliament, that's part of the scheme, scam, and the fraud and the hoax here, right? Is to subvert that. Look at that right there, 1689. By violating the freedom of election of members to serve in Parliament. Were they having some election interference and fraud in 1689? I think so. Because it's being declared right here. Let's see. By prosecutions in the Court of King's Bench for matters in cause of Commonwealth only in Parliament. Wait a minute. And by divers other arbitrary and illegal courses. Imagine that. Supposed to be done in the legislature. And whereas of late years partial, corrupt, and unqualified persons have been returned and served on juries and trials, and particularly divers juries and trials for high treason, which were not freeholders. Some qualifications going on here. Excessive fines have been imposed, and illegal and cruel punishments inflicted, and several grants and promises made of fines and forfeitures before any conviction or judgment against the persons upon whom the same were to be levied. That's them bills of attainder. Any legislation that prescribes punishment is a bill of attainder or bill of pains and penalties. Don't let them fool you, or they ain't fooling me, because I've done my research and studies and I've showed it on the screen as it is written. They want to try and construe that as a bill of attainder being, for felonies and for capital offenses without a trial by a jury. Yeah, that was happening too. But they were making stuff up, SMU. But by one statute, the easy emoluments of statutable plunder, those anal oppressive statutes, extending admiralty and vice admiralty jurisdiction beyond its ancient limits. That's right. It's the same old crap again, folks. Again. Some of you may have already heard me say this stuff before, but repetition, and there's definitely some new people that are joining here, but it's good. We need new people paying attention. We need the people to wake up. All which are utterly and directly contrary to the known laws and statutes and freedom of this realm. Known laws and statutes. You mean like Magna Carta? Law? Rights as law? Why didn't they say just law? Why did they say laws and statutes? Uh-oh. Because they're two totally different things. So this is, 1689. This is not something new under the sun, folks. So this is the primary right. Okay? Now, this is per the Idaho Constitution, but this is the Declaration of Rights. Technically speaking, it should be a separate document laying down the law, then the Constitution. But see, this is how they fundamentally altered part of this is, well, it's part of Constitution. These are constitutional rights. No. But we need to fully comprehend, then understand this right, which might sound familiar like the First Amendment. The guarantee of religious liberty, the exercise and enjoyment of religious faith and worship, shall forever be guaranteed. And no person shall be denied any civil or political right. What about natural right? Privilege or capacity on account of his religious opinions. Okay, the next part says, but the liberty of conscience hereby secured. Well, where? Where did it say liberty of conscience? Do we all not know that religion is about the right of conscience? Liberty of conscience. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is among these unalienable rights. Which means you can't take them away and hold them till we pay some debt. You can't place a lien upon them. That's right. And that's what they've done, right? Because of these bankruptcies. They put a lien on our unalienable rights, and now we have privileges. We don't have rights. We only have Roman civil law rights, as they privileges, as they tell us. They dictate to us. Okay, so here we are, looking at as it is written. It says, but the liberty of conscience hereby secured shall not be construed to dispense with oaths or affirmations or excuse acts of licentiousness or justify polygamous or other pernicious practices inconsistent with morality or the peace or safety of the state. Oh. Okay. Nor to permit any person, organization, or association, to directly or indirectly aid or abet, counsel, or advise any person to commit the crime of bigamy or any other crime. So this isn't just about bigamy or polygamy. Or any other crime. Now, this is where we have to fully comprehend that rights impose a duty, and where there's a right, another man has a duty to respect that right. So when we say we have the right of conscience, that means we have the right to think for ourselves. Right of self-determination. Liberty of conscience, to think for ourselves. We don't allow people to dictate to us anything. Okay? It's a fundamental God-given right. And the reason why it's a God-given right, because God is the one that created us. He gave us this brain, conscience, to think for ourselves. Okay? So this is the primary right. Sometimes known, referred to as the First Amendment. But this is in every state constitution and your Bill of Rights. This liberty of conscience. And it doesn't matter if it's not there. You could cite any state declaration of rights, because again, bills of rights and those merely declaratory of the common law. This is common law. Rights as the common law that's common to all. Oh, but common law stare decisis, case law. Yeah, in England, and this is part of the Magna Carta, and everything that's happened since the Magna Carta is trying to tell these people that no, we have God-given rights. Not the Roman civil law, the code where we have privileges and the king dictates to us what our rights are, which we don't have rights, we have privileges. This is an ideological conflict. Okay? So we have to fully comprehend that this is part of the war. Right? We're at war. World war. Okay? So, or any other crime. No person shall be required to attend or support any ministry or place of worship, religious sect or denomination, or pay tithes against his consent, nor shall any preference be given by law to any religious denomination or mode of worship. Bigamy and polygamy are forever prohibited in this state, and the legislature, what? And the legislature shall provide by law for the punishment of such crimes. That kind of sounds like bills of attainder or bills of pains and penalty, authorizing the legislature to create punishment. Bouvet's Law Dictionary, 1856, under bills of attainder, it says legislation, punishment, period. So any legislation that prescribes punishment, that's back to that promising an award before any conviction. Right? Where was that? It was just right there. And several grants and promises made of fines. Oh, well, that's a $500 fine and up to a year in jail. Oh, before anybody was ever... Oh, yeah, that's before any conviction or judgment. Before he was even charged. And then the other key part of that is ask the question, well, where does the fine go? Does it go to the injured party? No, it does not. There is no injured party. Well, the state is a fiction. And again, in Maxfield versus Levy, fictions cannot obtain jurisdiction. They're not among the living. They have no standing. Period. No lawful authority. See you out there, James Skin. Thank you, brother, for running around posting all that stuff. Thank you. So, when are we going to learn this? Because the claim and exercise of a right cannot be converted into a crime. That's Miller versus United States on appeal. All right? Oh, crap. Well, Rumble's not doing so good either, huh? Well, Curiosell, you might need to reboot your device or something. Anybody else having issues with Telegram or Rumble? I see quite a few out there on Rumble watching. Anyway, this is what we need to learn. This is the right. The liberty of conscience. Okay? And like it says here, but the liberty of conscience hereby secured. Okay. Now I'm going to take you to Madison's Memorial and Remonstrance from 1785. James Madison. Now, again, there is a clear distinction between a petition and a remonstrance. Okay? A remonstrance is a formal written declaration, a formal written protest. It's a protest. This is how we protest, in writing. That stuff out there on the street corner and whatever, that's called picketing. That's not protesting. You aren't protesting anything. Just a bunch of babbling idiots on a street corner. It does not accomplish any. Oh, we're waking people up to what? It's not doing anything. I mean, to a certain extent, yes, I can see kind of waking some people up. I get that. I do. But it's not achieving the goal of what you think it's doing, which is we're protesting. This is why reading means reading and fully comprehending what these words actually mean, especially when we're talking about the common law, the real law. Now, what does it say? We, the subscribers, citizens of said Commonwealth, lowercase c, not an uppercase c, not a improper person, which goes back to Book 1, Chapter 19, subsection 213 about inhabitants. Oh, that's right. Articles of Confederation talk about the free inhabitants. Even in the Idaho Code and all over the place, even in United States Code, it talks about the inhabitants. How do we not recognize that status as inhabitants? And there are certain inhabitants that are a different kind of citizen, more known as the people, having political power, political rights. Not everybody has political rights. Okay? When you go with man in the private, completely in the private, or say like off-grid, that would be a free inhabitant who has no political rights because none of this applies to him. It's none of his concern. He wants nothing to do with it. He wants to live freely out on God's land, on God's green earth. Leave him alone. No man has the right to interfere. And therefore, no man, what a man can't do in his person, he cannot do through the agency of another. So think about that for just a minute, as long as you need there. If I can't do it, then I cannot delegate that power to an agent to act on my behalf to do that. Whatever it is. But listen. We, the citizens of said Commonwealth, having taken into serious consideration a bill printed by order of the last session of General Assembly entitled, okay, here's the title of the bill, quote, a bill establishing a provision for teachers. Look, it's like proper diction here. Capital T, capital S for session, capital G and capital A for proper nouns, proper English language. Of the Christian religion. Okay, great. So they want to create a bill establishing a provision for teachers of the Christian religion, and they're here to what? Remonstrate, a protest against this, and conceiving the same, if finally armed with the sanctions of a law, will be a dangerous abuse of power, are bound as faithful members of a free state to remonstrate against it, and to declare the reasons by which we are determined we remonstrate against the said bill. Okay. This is how you use the word remonstrate. It's in opposition of creating legislation. And you're declaring the reasons why. Because. Make this bigger. Number one, because we hold it for a fundamental and undeniable truth that religion, now this is a quote, that religion or the duty which we owe to our Creator and the manner of discharging it can be directed only by reason and conviction, not by force or violence. All right. Test time, like I did on Wednesday night workshop. Test time. Where does this come from? Where does this quotation come from? And it's a fundamental, undeniable truth. Oof. Please get rid of that. Oh, well, I'm probably going to have to do that one. Please do not post your dissertation stuff on my feeds, people. It's not your dumping ground. So, Diesel D says, so they wanted to fund Christian teachers. Yes, absolutely. No, the Declaration of Independence is not a remonstrance. The Declaration of Independence, in a sense, a declaration lays down the law. Because law, Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, law is that which is laid down, ordained, or established. Well, declare. D meaning down. Clare, clarify. Well, we're going to clarify the law by putting it in writing it down. Okay? So even in like rules of procedure and stuff, you got to have a declaration in support of a motion. You're declaring the law of the case. Yes, Diesel D's. Somebody remembered that from class. But, yeah, Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12th, 1776, as the theoretical foundation of all government. Where's my brother Rob out here tonight? So here, what is it talking about? The religion then of every man must be left to the conviction and what? Conscience of every man. And it is the right of every man to exercise it as these may dictate. This right, in its nature, an unalienable right. Oh, pardon me. This right is, in its nature, an unalienable right. It is unalienable or unalienable because the opinions of men, depending only on the evidence contemplated by their own minds, cannot follow the dictates of other men. It is unalienable also because what is here a right towards men is a duty towards the Creator. We have a duty because these rights come from God. So, if this right comes from God, then we have a duty to God, the Creator. Bingo. So, it is the duty of every man to render to the Creator such homage and such only as he believes to be acceptable to him. This duty is precedent, both in order of time and in degree of obligation to the claims of civil society. So if anybody in the civil society wants to say, well, we can require you to wear a mask, no, because what came in order of time and degree of obligation first, before they even took this oath of office, if they have one. If they don't have one, they're not legitimate government to begin with. They have no lawful authority to begin with. First in time is first in line. And then rights impose a duty. So, not only do we have a duty to God, but we also have a duty to our fellow man when a man says no or woman says no. And for instance, like the one I like to use, rape. Okay? What's the difference between consensual sex and rape? The word no. That's all it takes to make the difference. The word yes is consensual. The word no means non-consensual, which means rape. So let's apply this fundamental principle to, let's say, putting on a mask. So when a man says no, or woman says no, does that not violate the fundamental right of conscience? The right to think for ourselves. No man gets to dictate to us anything, at any time, anywhere, ever. Now, with the exception of on their own land, on their own property, but still, these are unalienable rights. Even on somebody else's property, they can't say, hey, put a mask on. Why? No. Now, let's say for a sick person in the house or something, hey, no smoking in the house because they're on oxygen. Well, that's kind of a known thing, right? Boom, things can go big bang with pure oxygen. Okay, so now that you know, knowledge is power. Now you've been empowered that you have this right. The right to think for yourself, and this right imposes a duty not only on us, to God, to the Creator, but also on our fellow man. And it comes before anything else that was created by man, because, again, both in order of time and degree of obligation, to the claims of a civil society. It comes before the civil society was even created. Long existed, long antecedent of the formation of the state, to quote Hale versus Hinkle. Before any man can be considered as a member of a civil society, he must be considered as a subject of the governor of the universe. And if a member of the civil society who enters into any subordinate association, that's an individual or member, right, must always do it with the reservation of his duty to the general authority. Much more must every man who becomes a member of any particular civil society do it with a saving of his allegiance to the universal sovereign. We maintain, therefore, that in matters of religion, no man's right is abridged by the institution of a civil society, and that religion is wholly exempt from its cognizance. Lack of jurisdiction, both personal and subject matter. True it is that no other rule exists. What? Say that again. True it is that no other rule exists by which any question which may divide a society can be ultimately determined, but the will of the majority. But it is also true that the majority may trespass on the rights of the minority, which is why we said no. Here we go. Number 2. Again, a remonstrance is because. If religion be exempt from the authority of the society at large, still less can it be subject to that of the legislative body. The latter, here we go. The latter, which is the legislative body, are but the creatures of vicerants of the former. Creation, law of creation. Their jurisdiction is both derivative and limited. It is limited with regard to the coordinate departments. More necessarily, it is limited with regard to the constituents. The preservation of a free government requires not merely that the metes and bounds which separate each department of power be invariably maintained, separation of powers doctrine, but more especially that neither of them be suffered to overlap the great barrier which defends the rights of the people. The rulers who are guilty of such an encroachment exceed the commission from which they derive their authority and are tyrants. The people who submit to it are governed by laws made neither by themselves nor by an authority derived from them, and are slaves. I don't know about you all, but I'm tired of being a slave. Anybody else tired of being slaves? There you are, Brother Rob. See you out there. The basis and foundation. Annals of America, Volume 2 over here, regarding the Virginia Declaration of Rights, says it's the theoretical foundation of all government. And Rob, my buddy Rob out here, who does quite a bit of research and keeping tabs on me, and the keeper of the document sometimes, found that out there. So, we got to understand that first primary document, the Virginia Declaration of Rights. But number 3 here. Because it is proper to take alarm at the first experiment on our liberties, we hold this prudent jealously to be the first duty of citizens. Oh wait, there's a capital C. And one of the noblest characters of the late Revolution. The freemen of America did not wait till usurped power had strengthened itself by exercise and entangled the question in precedents. They saw all the consequences in the principle, and they avoided the consequences by denying the principle. We revere this lesson too too much soon to forget it. Who does not see that the same authority which can establish Christianity in exclusion of all other religions may establish with the same ease any particular sect of Christians in exclusion of all other sects? That the same authority which can force a citizen to contribute 3% pence only of his property for the support of any one establishment may force him to conform to any other establishment in all cases whatsoever. Do you wonder why the verbiage here is exactly why it's here? No person shall be required to attend or support any ministry or place of worship, religious sect or denomination, or pay tithes against his consent. Wonder where that came from. Okay. So now we're getting an idea of what a remonstrance looks like. Because the bill violates that equality which ought to be the basis of every law, and which is more indispensable in proportion to the validity and expediency of any law, is more liable to be impeached. If, quote, all men are by nature equally free and independent, unquote. Where does that come from? Virginia Declaration of Rights. Why is it the Virginia Declaration of Rights? Because that's the fundamental principles of the laws of nature. And this is also in the Law of Nations. Book 1, Preliminaries. Imagine that. All men are to be considered as entering into society on equal conditions, as relinquishing no more, and therefore retaining no less, one than another, of their natural rights. Above all, are they to be considered as retaining an equal title to the free exercise of religion according to the dictates of conscience. Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776, that all men are by nature equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights, of which, when they enter into a state of society, they cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty, liberty of conscience, with the means of acquiring and possessing property and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. Wow. That religion or the duty which we owe to our Creator, this is section 16, or article 16, and the manner of discharging it can be directed by reason and conviction, not by force or violence, and therefore all men are equally entitled to the free exercise of religion according to the dictates of conscience, and that it is the mutual duty of all to practice Christian forbearance, love, charity, and charity towards each other. That's where the rights come from. This comes from God, the sovereign, the creator. And therefore we have a duty to God. We have a duty to our creator. That's our ideology here in America. If you don't like that ideology, you are more than free to change your nation, your country. You are free to move. You don't like it here, you can move. But don't you dare try to change our ideology here and our way of thinking, our lifestyle, our culture. We want to be free and equal here. We want to be free and independent of government, because that's what it says in the Law of Nations, that man is to be free and independent of all things created by his fellow man without his own consent. That is a fundamental principle of the laws of nature. Okay? So now that you've got the basis of the ideology of the right of conscience, did you have the right to say no? I don't want your jab. I don't want your mask. I don't want none of it. And you have no lawful authority. Okay? That's the key word. Lawful. Not legal. Because I'm going to show you. Let's go look at, trespass. Well, you're trespassing. You're trespassing. Okay. Where was that? Oh, man. Is that, arrest and seizures? No, that's resisting and obstructing. Where was the trespassing one? Dang it. False imprisonment. Where in the heck is it? I can't believe I can't remember this. Dang it. What was that under? I thought it was under that one. I know it's not an assault and battery. I'm under provisions, because this is Title 18, right? Yeah, Title 18. Well, why don't I just do a search here? Chapter 35, let me look at that. 35. Forcible entry and detainer. I don't believe it's that. It's, yeah, that's... Where in the heck is it? I should know. I was charged with it. Maybe it was under 19 for some reason. I swear trespass was right in there. Or maybe it's just here. Nope. I know it should be under Title 18, Crimes and Punishments. Let's just do a quick... see what it comes up with. Jeez. 70, 18-70, yeah. That's what I thought. 7008. 18-7008. But I didn't see it there. Did they remove it? Or did I just blow? Oh, right there. Trespass and malicious injuries to property. Wow. How did I miss that? Okay. So when we're talking about trespass, they're calling criminal trespass definitions and acts of constituting. Okay. Remember, the real word is lawful, not legal. Then we get in here to trespass. Definition, acts constituting. Definitions used in this section, crops. Wait a minute. What are we talking about? Crops and land and pasture. Damage means any injury or damage to real or personal property, and includes but not limited to any of the following actions when conducted without lawful authority, the consent of the landowner or his agent, or a valid license. Cutting down or carrying off any wood, underbrush, tree or timber, or girdling or otherwise injuring any tree or timber on the land of another. Severing from the property. Oops. Come on. Severing from the property of another anything attached thereto or the produce thereof. Digging, taking, or carrying away any earth, soil, or stone from the property of another. Tearing down or otherwise damaging any fence on the land of another person, or opening any gate, bar, or fence of another person and leaving it open, or using the corral or other corrals of another person. Dumping trash or covering up in any manner the property of another person. The unprovoked intentional killing or injuring of a domestic animal or another on his property. Removing, mutilating, damaging, destroying any no trespassing signs or markers or similar meaning. Going through or driving a motor vehicle as defined in sections 49-149-23 Idaho Code, into, upon, over, or through any cultivated lands. Means out on the farmland, right? Okay. Or injuring livestock. So are we getting what this really is supposed to be about? Okay. 2. Acts constituting criminal trespass. A person commits criminal trespass and is guilty of a misdemeanor, except as provided in subsection 3AI. There's an exception to this, of this section. When he enters or remains on the real property of another without permission, knowing or with reason to know that his presence is not permitted. Okay, this is why we have to fully comprehend the open sign, whether it's privately owned business or not. When they put up an open sign, they are open to the general public. Their doors are open. That is an invitation to come in. Okay? It might be privately owned. Private property. Yes, I get that. But it's still open to the public or general public. And most of them have a business license. Now, this is where people like Ammon Bundy disagree with me on this, but it's a fact of law. You have a business license. You're not private. You're in some sort of commerce. So, might be privately owned, but you're still incorporated into the body public with a business license because your goods, your products come from foreign places. So, privately owned, publicly ran. Okay. Now, real private is, say, a woodworker or a farmer, that's real private. You don't have an open sign, and your products are done by you. They're created by the man himself. Now, that's private. No need for business license, because you're not acting in interstate or foreign commerce. But still, you cannot subvert another man's rights, because we have that duty unto God to respect these rights. But pay attention. But that's that knowing, right? Knowing or with reason to know that his presence is not permitted. When you see an open sign, that's an invitation. That clearly means come on in. A person has reason to know his presence is not permitted when, except under a landlord-tenant relationship, he fails to depart immediately from the real property of another after being notified by the owner or his agent to do so, or he returns without permission or invitation within 1 year. Now, again, this has to do with what? Private, not open to the public. Because clearly, if you got an open sign and you have a business license, you're duty bound. Okay. Unless a longer period of time is designated by the owner or his agent. Now remember, you have the right to refuse service for any reason. What's the reason? Well, because you won't put a mask on. Let's get into that. If not permitted on real property that meets any of the following descriptions. The property, The property is reasonably associated with a residence or place of business. Okay. The property is cultivated. The property is fenced or otherwise enclosed in a manner that a reasonable person would recognize as delineated a private property boundary. Provided, however, if the property adjoins or is contained within public lands, the fence line adjacent to the public land is posted with conspicuous no trespassing signs, or bright orange or fluorescent paint at the corners of the fence adjoining public land, and at all navigable streams, roads, gates, and rights-of-way entering the private land from the public land, and is posted in a manner that a reasonable person would be put on notice that it is private land. Okay? But we're talking out in the middle of the woods somewhere. We're not talking about downtown, on a storefront, on Commercial Row, with a bunch of open signs that everybody knows that they have open signs and their doors are open to the public or general public. All right. The property is unfenced and uncultivated, but is posted with conspicuous no trespassing signs or bright orange or fluorescent paint at all property corners and boundaries where the property intersects navigable streams, roads, gates, and is posted. Okay. They're not going to have that down there because they want your business. That's why they put up the open signs. That's why they went into business to begin with. So we're not talking about that kind of private property, are we? B, every person who commits a criminal trespass is provided by this section and who causes damage to real and personal property in excess of $1,000 while trespassing is guilty of criminal trespass with damage and is guilty of a misdemeanor. except as provided in subsection 3B(I) of this section. So let's get there. Okay. Penalties. Penalties for criminal trespass. Any person who pleads guilty to or is found guilty of a violation of subsection 2A of this section for the first time. Does this promise a fine or an award before? That sure does. This is a bill of attainder, bill of pains and penalty. But let's pay attention. If no damage of any kind was committed during the trespass, and the person accused does not remain if ordered to depart by the owner of the real property or his agent, then the person shall be guilty of an infraction and fined in the amount of $300. An infraction is more schmew. There's no such thing as infraction. It's all schmew. It's all bills of pains and penalties. Now, except as provided in subparagraph I1, remember 3AI, we'll get there. Of this paragraph, the person may be sentenced to jail for a period of no more than 6 months and shall be fined in the amount no less than $500 and no more than $1,000. Okay? Any person who pleads guilty to or is found guilty of a violation of subsection 2A of this section for the second time within 5 years may be sentenced to jail for no more than 6 months, shall be fined in the amount of no less than $1,500 and no more than $3,000. If the trespass can be reasonably construed to have been committed in a manner described in section 36-1603A Idaho Code, and shall have any license issued pursuant to Title 36, Chapter 3 Idaho Code, suspended for 1 year, blah, 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 blah. Now here we get into that III, that exception. Any person who pleads guilty or is found guilty of a violation of subsection 2 of this section, who previously has been found guilty or has pled guilty of 2 or more violations of this section within 10 years, notwithstanding may be sentenced to jail for a period of 2. Where was it? Wait a minute. I thought it was 2AI. All right, let's keep going. Penalties for criminal trespass with damage. That's B. Let's see. 5 subject rights authorities describe section 6. Oh, here it is. 6. 6. A person shall not be guilty of trespass under this section for entering or remaining on real property if the person entered or remained on the property pursuant to any of the following rights or authorities. An established right of entry or occupancy of the real property in question, including but not limited to an invitation, that would be that, whether express or implied, that would be them open signs. To enter or remain on real property, including but not limited to the right to enter property that is at that time open to the public, if the person is in compliance with lawful conditions imposed on access. It must be a lawful condition, full of law, not color of law, statutes, or shit made up policy. No, 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 no. No guidance documents apply here. That's not law. Now that you all know, and I mean all of you, law enforcement officers included, do you know the difference between a lawful condition imposed on access versus a legal condition? Lawful, full of law. Rights as the law. Okay? So now that you know, let's go into the Constitution about these businesses with a business license as corporations, right? Now, some of you may remember this from a couple years ago now, right? But here in Idaho, we got this thing called corporations, public and private. I'll be darn. That's right. The law still applies, even to the private corporations, which means a business license incorporated in law, incorporated into the body politic. Now, the first one here, under corporations, public and private, acceptance of constitution by corporations. That's what happens when you do the business license. You are bound by the Constitution, which includes all of the rights, the law, right? Acceptance of the provisions of this Constitution in binding form. Right of eminent domain and policy power reserved. Pay attention. Everybody, including the law enforcement officers, but more specifically us, the people. And this is our right and the limitation of government and policy, not police. It is policy. Okay? The right of eminent domain shall never be abridged nor so construed as to prevent the legislature from taking the property and franchises of incorporated companies and subjecting them to public use. The same as the private of the property of individuals. Now, semicolon, semi-pause. And the policy powers of the state shall never be abridged or so construed as to permit corporations to conduct their business in such manner as to infringe the equal rights of individuals or the general well-being of the state. That's that lawful condition upon entrance. Rights. You can't infringe on any of our rights. That includes the right of conscience, the liberty of conscience. Now, for those that paid attention here a couple weeks ago about, we get to the upbringing of our children, parents, child, Bill of Rights thing there, that, we're responsible for that. We get to choose our own health. That's right. Well, the general welfare clause, yes, the general welfare, what we're talking about is defending our rights from infringement, because that was the intent of creating government to begin with. Right? That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, receiving their just powers under the consent of the governed. Not everybody is governed by the government. Only those who are bound by it. See Article 6, Clause 3. The members of the legislative, executive, and judicial, both state and federal, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. That would be them, capital C, citizens in their proper persons, the emoluments of those offices, any advantages, profits, or gains received while on the clock performing duties or discharging the duties of that office. At no time can you infringe on any of our rights, or it wouldn't be a Declaration of Rights. It wouldn't be a right. Does that make any sense here, folks? Is any of this making sense out there? Is anybody, grasping the concept of liberty of conscience as one of those liberties? Because, like the Declaration of Independence says, among these is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. There are so many rights to try to enumerate, it would be impossible to enumerate them all. That was the argument against the Bill of Rights in the Constitutional Article 5 Convention in creating the Bill of Rights to begin with. That if it was thought that if we were to enumerate some, that there may be some out there that would construe that those are the only ones that we have. That's why they did the 9th Amendment. So, hopefully, folks are grasping the concept of how this right works and how it's being infringed. Okay? And then we need to follow the process that is due. That's the remedy. Due process of law is remedy. To get the relief that we get to demand, because we have the right to demand that. Because somebody owes us a duty. And a public servant has that obligation. He is bound to support the Constitution. Not interpret it, to support it. Telegram, James Cantrell, for first time here, and I'm deeply impressed with your live and what you're teaching. Thank you, James. I have a question. The law that you are covering is Idaho state law. So does that mean that the same law in another state applies to what you're covering here? Absolutely, because we're talking about rights as the law. And again, when I'm looking at the statutes or code, that's all color of law. That's not real law, right? I mean, let me prove this. Not just, I'm just saying it. Let me prove it. Okay? We have a couple different places that this is found. A lot of people are familiar with Title 18, subsection 241 and 242, especially deprivation of rights while acting under color of law. Well, why is that? What is color of law? Well, let's look at it, okay? And read what it says. This says civil rights section, right? Deprivation of rights under color of law, okay? Whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom, well, there you go. Statutes, ordinances, regulations, or custom is all color of law. It's not law. Now, some will say, oh, well, it says color of law, comma, statute. Right, it's all color of law. Okay, let me give you one more example. Under the civil side, because that's criminal. So if you want to do Title 18, 242, that's a criminal complaint. Because that's crimes, that's criminal, right? That's in the nature and cause of action. What is the nature is criminal. So if you're going to cite Title 18, you do that in the criminal side under a criminal complaint. That would be Form A091. From right here, uscourts.gov. And I can't even spell that. One-fingered. Go down here to, this is uscourts.gov. Go here over here to court forms. And right down here is A091 right on the front page, just to the beginning of forms. There's your criminal complaint form. Now, let me clarify this, especially for those public servants out there. This says the category for this criminal complaint is law enforcement, grand jury, and prosecution forms. We all have the right to prosecute our own claims. That's why it's called a prosecuting attorney. And that right is enumerated over there in Wisconsin Constitution, Article 1, Declaration of Rights, Section 21. Rights of suitors. We all have the right to prosecute our own claims. This is not just for law enforcement. It is a prosecution form, and you have the right to prosecute your own claims. Now, let's go to civil. Okay? Oh, yeah, and you could also do the warrant for arrest. Right? Criminal complaint, warrant for arrest. It's down here somewhere. Is it 224? Hell, anyways, there's a warrant for arrest here. Maybe it was 440. That's summons and I can just go like this. 442. There it is. There's your warrant of arrest pursuant to the Fourth Amendment. No warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation. That's your criminal complaint. And go see a notary and get sworn in under oath. And do an affidavit of truth that goes with the criminal complaint. That's due process of law. The law dictates that. That would be the Fourth Amendment that dictates that process. Okay? And we all have the right to make an arrest. It's not called a citizen arrest. It's just arrest. Because again, what I cannot do in my person, I cannot do through the agency of another. Okay? If I can't do it, if I can't make an arrest, I cannot have somebody else make an arrest. Because if I can't do it, we can't delegate a power. We do not possess ourselves first. Fundamentally and principally. It would be completely illogical to think some other man out there that's clothed with authority. Which, by the way, let's look at that one real quick. That's 241. But remember the color of law, statutes. But right here in 241, if two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, intimidate, if two or more persons go in disguise on the highway or on the premises of another with intent to prevent or hinder his free exercise and enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured. What do you think that disguise is? That's clothed with authority. It's a disguise. Everybody take their clothes off. We're all the same. We're all equal. We're created equal, free, and equal. That disguise that people put on does not give them any more authority than I have. Naked. Standing in the middle of the street. I don't care what they're wearing. It's a disguise. That's called clothed with authority. Under the Hobbs Act, it's a violation of the Hobbs Act. It's a crime. But let's pay attention here because we have to remember what an arrest is any deprivation of liberty. So, liberty of conscience. So they're trying to deprive your liberty. That is an arrest of your liberty. One of them. So therefore, that's an unlawful condition upon entrance. It's an unlawful arrest of your right of conscience. Now, what does it say? If it involves what? If such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap. Right? May be sentenced to death. Pay attention. Law enforcement folks out there that think that you can make an arrest without a warrant. Yeah, Fourth Amendment requires that. Boyd versus U.S. backs that up. You have to have a warrant. The only exception to that rule of law from the common law is breaches of the peace and felonies happening directly in front of you. And I would definitely encourage you to read the Treatise on Arrest and False Imprisonment. It is very enlightening to both the folks, the American people, and our public servants, law enforcement officers. You're supposed to be an officer of the law when you're actually an executioner of the law. You are to execute the law. You're supposed to do what you're told. I know that's a tough one and a tough pill to swallow because you want to think that you're doing good out there. And I get that. I do. And I commend those that go into this with the idea that I want to help protect and defend. But there's something very evil and sinister behind that you go into work for. You don't realize that. Some of you may not realize that. I know personally a couple of different law enforcement officers that have quit because they found out. They don't want to be part of it. Okay? But that's how serious this is. And if the people were to wake up and learn how to file these criminal complaints, they would cite Title 18 United States Code Section 241, because that's the internal policy that applies to you folks. Okay? That's what you're bound by when you go under the Constitution. This is for, and I've got a case out there, and I went down the rabbit hole on U.S. versus Morrison. All this legislation only applies to federal and state actors. Imagine that, because it's color of law, it's policy. It is only to apply to those who are bound by it. A contract of employment. Okay? But now let's get back to that color of law, because some people might not be quite convinced that even though that 242 says color of law, statutes, rules, regulations, that's not color of law. But let's go look at Title 42, 1983 on the civil side. Okay? Go over here to civil forms. Right? Down here to them pro se litigants. Pro se number 15. Document template right here for us. All ready for us to go. Don't know why more people aren't using this sucker. Now remember, this is against public servants. Okay? And it'll have right here, you got to do that. Well, I guess. Oh, yeah, it does. Right here. What district are you in? You have to look up what district you're in. Right? Now, like for Idaho, we're so small, we only got one. Boom. District of Idaho. There is no division. It's just District of Idaho. We're not Eastern, Northern, Southern, anything like that. But you'll want to select that, right? And do all that stuff. Or you can handwrite this stuff in. Just print this sucker out and handwrite it. Or you can type it out here and then print it out and take it in. Okay? The parties to this complaint, blah, 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 blah. But let's get into who it applies to, right? Individual capacity or official capacity, blah, 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 blah. Right here. Basis for jurisdiction, or Title 4293, you may sue state or local officials for the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and federal laws. Okay? That's state or local officials. Now, under the Bivens versus 6 unknown named agents, the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, 1971 here, you may sue federal officials for violation of certain constitutional rights. But we don't have constitutional rights. But for all intents and purposes, it's constitutionally protected, or like it says, secured by the Constitution. So, are you bringing a suit against federal officials or state or local officials? One's a Bivens claim and the other's a 1983 claim. Okay? Now, B, 1983 allows claims alleging deprivation of rights and immunity secured by the Constitution and federal laws. If you are suing under Section 93, what federal constitutional or statutory right do you claim is or being violated by state or local officials? Now, this is where we get into common law, because rights are the law from the common law. This is where, right out of my common law pleadings book, it says, in the complaint, you got to have what? What is the right that was violated? What was the conduct that violated the right? And what are the actual damages? Now let's read the document template here. What rights? What federal constitutional or statutory rights do you claim are being violated by state or local officials? So let me clarify that. What is the right that was violated? Okay, if you're suing under Bivens, okay, that's the federal guys, not state or local. So that's section B, and this is section C. And let's get into D. Okay? Anything allows defendants to be found liable only when they have acted under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory or the District of Columbia. That is a quote unquote. And notice there's no comma. It's under color of any statute. Does it say color of law? It says color of any statute, color of law. So here's the evidence from their own document template that color of law is statutes, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage. Okay? The common law is the law. Period. And I don't need Self versus Ray that doesn't say what a lot of people will post out there that it says. It doesn't say what half of the people say it says out there. Go read Self versus Ray and find it. Don't just arbitrarily copy and paste stuff that you haven't read. You haven't read the case? That's not what it says. So, go read the case. Now, number 3, statement of claim. State as briefly as possible the facts of your case. Now, this is where I teach about the 4 W's. Who, did what, where, and when. Okay? Short, clear, and concise statements of facts of who, did what, where, and when. It is that simple. Period. Keep it short. Okay? State as briefly as possible the facts of your case. Describe how each defendant was personally involved in the alleged wrongful action, along with the dates and locations of all relevant events. You may wish to include further details such as the names of other persons involved in the events. See, again, these words, diction. We're looking for transactions, occurrences, and events. That's it. Who did what, where, and when? What were the transactions, occurrences, and events involved in surrounding your claims? Just the facts, ma'am. Nothing but the facts. Do not cite any cases or statutes. I got to make that clear, folks. This is about who did what, where, and when. If more than one claim is asserted, number each claim and write a short and plain statement of each claim in a separate paragraph. Attach additional pages if needed. All right. What does that say? Where did the events giving rise to your claims occur? That's the where. That's one of the 4 W's. What date and approximate time? So this is the when did this happen? What are the facts underlining your claims? For example, what happened to you? So what? Who did what? Who did what? What was the conduct that violated the right? And who did it? Okay, the what happened to you. Who else saw what happened? Was anyone else involved? Those are the examples of what are the facts underlying your claim. This is the who did what. This is the where, this is the when. This is the where. Pretty simple, eh? Then your injuries. If you sustained injuries related to the events alleged above, describe your injuries and state what medical treatment, if any, you required and did or did not receive. These are the what? Actual damages. The actual injury. Now, it talks about punitive damages here. I get that. State briefly what you want the court to do for you. Make no legal arguments. Do not cite any cases or statutes. If requesting money damages, including the amounts of actual damages and or punitive damages claimed for the acts alleged, explain the basis for these claims. Now, this is where you grab your criminal complaint and you enumerate the crimes, criminal in nature, and you lay claim to those punitive damages. Now, I like to go back to and refer to the Simpson trials. Remember O.J. Simpson? Why did they have to do the criminal trial first? They were claiming punitive damages in the multiple millions in the civil. But they said, okay, well, in order to get punitive damages, we have to do the criminal first. So they stayed the civil case pending the outcome of the criminal, which my brother Rob out there found in Chadman's encyclopedia backs this up. It's a fact of law that you have to do the criminal first in order to get the punitive damages, and you lay claim to those in the civil. Okay, so in the Simpson trial, he was acquitted. He was not found guilty. Therefore, there were no punitive damages awarded over on the civil side. They could only get actual damages. Now, contrary to some of the popular belief out there that you can lay punitive damages claims in a civil without doing the criminal, it just doesn't happen. Prove me wrong. Now, there may be some people out there that might have gotten some punitive damages without doing the criminal, but I'm thinking they actually did the criminal. But I have heard some people say that, oh, well, I've gotten punitive damages in civil. Yeah, were they prosecuted criminally? I agree, James Cantrell out here on Telegram. Yeah, many police officers are not under the full comprehension of the law, because if they were, they would not do some of the things that I have seen them do. Me as well, brother. I know. Can I still file a complaint against the officer who pulled me over more than 2 years ago and get my case overturned even after I accepted a plea? Well, yes and no. Fraud will vitiate anything. U.S. versus Throckmorton. It could be 10 years down the road when you discover this fraud, and you can go back in and do a separate independent action and vacate that whole judgment for fraud. Because you've recently discovered, right here, right now, from me, the law regarding fraud. U.S. versus Throckmorton. Okay? U.S. versus Throckmorton. So, yeah, sure can. And for felonies, it's up to 5 years. So, statute of limitations is 5 years on felonies. So, if it's only been 2 years, you're within your 5-year time. Take a look at Rule 60 for fraud. Civil. Rules of civil procedure. Rule 60, if you can't find it in your state, take a look at the federal civil rules of procedure first. Idaho basically follows almost verbatim what the federal rules say, both criminal and civil. So anyways, that's Rule 60. And I'm not talking about fraud upon the court. That's the judicial machinery. We're talking about intrinsic fraud or extrinsic fraud. But intrinsic as internal. So, thank you, brother. The law requires that before the party injured by any felonious act can seek civil redress for it, The matter should be disposed of before the proper criminal tribunal in order that the justice of the country may be first satisfied in respect to the public offense, and after a verdict, either of acquittal or conviction, a civil action may be maintained. And he's got the archive there. Thank you, Brother Rob. Good timing there. Yep. Okay, so all right. Went over a little bit tonight, but I'm sure you all enjoyed it tonight, right? Now, I was trying to get Tony on here tonight, and it just didn't happen. So, one of these days, Tony and I mean, we were planning on doing a live the other night, but we ended up discussing a lot of things that were going on and the other issues, plus the remonstrance that he's doing down there in California, needs to be changed, right? It needs to be rewritten in the proper form of a remonstrance, short and clear and concise. Because remember, this stuff's supposed to be read on the record. And like John Gentry was told with his, it's a wail of a remonstrance. And it's not a petition of remonstrance. It's either a petition or a remonstrance. So I want to correct that out there. And again, this was before I found Lex Parliamentary Americana. That's before I found this book. Okay? Elements of the law and practice of the legislative assemblies in the United States of America. This is the law, not the code. This book, because this comes from the common law. And thank you, brother, out there for sending me the book on that. I have the PDF of that, but I found that through Mason's Manual Legislative Procedure. It kept citing this cushions. And again, I kicked myself in the butt for not going when I first initially got Mason's Manual Legislative Procedure, the 2010 edition. And it was like on every page or every other page, it's citing cushions. So it's like, why do we even have Mason's Manual? Why don't we just ditch Mason's Manual and go right to the law and just follow the law? Because somebody wants to subvert that law. That's why. That would be them members of the bar and all their judicial common law stare decisis. That how the monarchy does it. In America, we made it very clear that the judicial branch doesn't have the power to make law. Nope. Somebody prove me wrong. Somebody point to that emolument in the Constitution. Show me where it says we gave the judicial branch the power to make law. Doesn't exist. Prove me wrong. That's a challenge out there. I put this one challenge out there before. And nobody brought proof of the law from the Constitution, from the supreme law of the land, where it says that the judicial branch has the power to make law. In fact, all three branches of government do not have the power to make law, with the exception of the power of the people through the legislative branch in an Article 5 convention. And that would only be law of the land. Wouldn't be common law, or it is common law of the land, but it's not the common law itself. Rights as the law. That must be done through declarations, and the people lay down the law. But God already laid down the law. It's already the law. Rights as the law. It's just a matter of whether you know it and you can articulate it and you can prove it, then you have that right. See the Ninth Amendment. Now, there we go again. No, the legislative branch makes policy, color of law. It's not pronounced police. It's pronounced policy. A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y. Remember? Fundamentals of English, the English language here. And I've already showed the etymology on that word. Oh, similar to policy. Yeah. You change the E to a Y to trick the people. And this is that armed body of men, them standing armies that our founders were referring to, that the king created as policy officers, not police. And I don't know how we're getting it. It's a 3-syllable word, not a 2. If we tried to pronounce it as a 2-syllable word, we're going to pronounce it as police, like head lice, or pole ice, like polar ice caps. There's no way to pronounce it police. So it's either police, again, head lice, rice. Yeah, English language is a funny one like that. But it's a 3-syllable word, policy. And I found it in some of the original 1776 era constitution, state constitution. It says to regulate the internal policy of the state with an E. You wouldn't say internal police as a regulation. No, it's policy. So, with that, we'll go to my Webby site here real quick. Over here under the library tab, there's the treatise on arrest and false imprisonment, the authority of law, which gives you the clear distinction of how a real statute is to be made and the authority of making it. The Law of Nations, the report of the Commission on Unalienable Rights. Still have yet to finish reading that sucker. Then we get into the common law on parliamentary practice and 2 manuals on the rules of procedure. Actually, more. But anyway, this is Lex Parliamentary Americana, that book that I just held up in PDF. Okay? Elements of the law and practice of the legislative assemblies of the United States of America. That Mason's Manual, Legislative Procedure, this one right here, 2010 edition, the black one with the red square here. Okay? That's 2010 edition. They've got a 2020 edition, but we have this out here. This one here is Thomas Jefferson's. This is the Jefferson's Manual. Okay, this isn't the old original of what Thomas Jefferson created. And then I have an old 1953 edition of Mason's Manual Legislative Procedure. One, just so you can see how much has changed since 1953 to 2010. And the 2020 edition, they really messed it up. More than likely because there might be some people that have been watching and paying attention to my shows here. And because there was a delay on the 2020 edition coming out. Because we were showing it and teaching from it. Especially them 10 principles of group decision making about having jurisdiction to begin with. Yeah, they fundamentally altered that. Doesn't matter, it's still a principle. You can cite the 2010 edition. Principles are principles are principles. They don't, you can't change a principle. Okay? But they sure try, because this is all, written by the bar to deceive men. Okay? Okay, all of these are right over here, Jameskin. And this is where I want people to come here, to my website, and download from here. Okay? Makes it nice and easy. And then down here, Commentaries on the Constitution by Joseph Story. It's a very good breakdown of all the different parts of the Constitution. Volume 1, 2, and 3. It's all right here. Okay, this is written in 1833. And then I got Bouvet's Law Dictionary, 1856, right here. 6th edition. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. And then a collection of maxims of law. And I've got that Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776, right here. I got a couple of, there's a County Sheriff's Handbook, the 1776 report. That's the President's Advisory 1776 Commission. Why are we going back to 1776? Imagine that. It's a Revolutionary War. Okay? Now, if you'd like to help support me over here, that can be done through either Patreon, Tier 1, Tier 2 donations, whatever you want to, monthly donation, whatever. You can set your own. And then that, Tier 4 is Wednesday Night Workshop on Patreon. And, of course, Monday Night Law for free. I also have the educational series right here, a link to that right onto the YouTube channel. It is on my Facebook page, Kirk's Law Corner page, as well. But just have that link to here. Other than that, I've been shut down on PayPal and Venmo and what was Cash App. So I'm not even trying to do any of that crap anymore. So it's either send it to the snail mail down here, this address here, 6477 West Fairview Avenue, Suite C, Boise, Idaho 83704. And that's for any cash wrapped in aluminum foil, gold and silver coinage, postal money orders, regular money orders, whatever. Okay? I want to thank those that have donated and supported, and those over on Patreon. Love you guys over there. Thank you for being there, and especially the Wednesday night people and everybody else supporting. Greatly appreciate you. And all the links to Facebook page, Telegram channel, to Patreon, to YouTube, and my Rumble channels, they're all right here in the upper left-hand corner. Also, have them over here under the links tab. Now, the other one, I haven't been doing anything with the KLC American Patriots main channel or master channel, main channel. Have not been doing that on Friday nights. I did a couple of them and it just didn't seem to go anywhere. So until the people are ready to take back our political power and learn this stuff and read, not much else I can do. Otherwise, I'm over here Monday nights for Kirk's Law Corner, and usually from 7 p.m. Mountain Time there to about 9 p.m. Mountain Time, which I'm about almost a half an hour over tonight. So, good time tonight, though. I hope everybody learned something, and that we all get on board with standing up against this and taking action instead of just running our mouths and talk. Okay? So, God bless you all. Have a wonderful night. And thank you all for being here, and especially to the newbies there. I'm glad you hung out and even learned something, right? All right? You're not living if you're not learning something new every day. And, they say learn something new every day. Well, guess what I learned today? Well, what I learned yesterday was wrong. So, and yeah, the website is kirkslawcorner.com. Thank you, Leslie, for sharing that, getting on that. Thank you. My brother Rob out there, Diesel D's, and those over there on Patreon. Thank you for being here and me in there. God bless you all. Have a wonderful night. And one of these nights we're going to bring a couple of these guys on, and we're just going to have a little banter back and forth and talk about some of this stuff. So I talked to a couple of the guys there in Patreon, and some of them are camera shy. Some people are camera shy. So, and yes, should have talked about that. National Assembly call tomorrow night. Let's go back just real quick. This is where we're trying to reassemble government de jure. This is the only legitimate, lawful assembly out there. All the others are fake wannabes, tried. I've been down, I've looked at them. None of them have the support of the military. None of them talk to the military like these guys do. None of them have had the military come and say, you're the only legitimate one. You're the only one that's doing this right and lawfully. But we're being, infiltrated and hijacked and trying to screw things up because, well, they don't want us to take back our power. Okay? So here we have it. Here's the national-assembly.net. And right here, conference call info. But before you get there, and that's tomorrow night, 3 o'clock, or Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Now you can click right down here. Join the online meeting right here, freeconferencecall.com/National Assembly. Now, that's if you download the application and install the app either on your desktop, laptop, or on your Android, or what's the other? Apple iPhones. Okay. But there is a couple tutorial videos right here for smartphones and for your computer apps here, both on YouTube. That's how to download and install the apps on your phones and your computer. Once you get that done, all you do is you open up the app, and you can actually come right here to national-assembly.net, go to the conference call tab, conference call info. Once you have the app open, it may even just do it as long as you have the app installed. And you click on that, it'll start with a web browser, right? Then it says, oh, you want to join the online meeting. You can do it right here, or launching the application. Okay? Okay. So long as everybody knows about that, there, it just opened up free conference call. Yes. Why will it not close? Well, great. I will manually close that. All right. So that's how that all works, and that gets you in there. Now, if you come here, you want to look at some of these assembly introduction videos. Okay? Trying to get your feet wet if you're new. Then we have some other, that is the introduction video, pardon me. Where is it? There's these podcasts here from his Hardline. Jason does some pretty good stuff there. I guess it's under the resources. That's a good place to start too. There are assembly supporting videos, important censored videos. Okay, so there's a little bit of stuff here for your resources to read. And in a way, kind of in a chronological order of things. What's our current situation? Where are we the people? Public notices. The 1638 fundamental orders. The General Assembly comes from right there. Okay? So, if you want to get on board with claiming and exercising the all political power in reassembling government de jure, this is the place that is done. Okay, this is where it's education on this call. First is the business part of the call, and then the second is the general discussion, Q&A, and teaching. Okay, this is education. National Assembly is a educational to how to get properly assembled. Okay, so I'll make that very clear that this website, national-assembly.net, and the call, it's about a business providing education. It's not an actual National Assembly. It's not a Congress. Because in order to have a Congress, you first have to have all of your states assembled. Because how are you going to send delegates to represent the states in a gaggle of monkeys? Because that's what Congress is a gaggle of monkeys. So, anyways, that shall conclude tonight's Monday Night Law. Nope, just to get the, there is no real view unless there is, but you can, like I just did right there, click on it and go right through there. But I highly recommend using the app, and I know that there's people out there that like have flip phones and stuff. I was like, what do you mean? Oh yeah, I guess there are people who still have flip phones. So, the only way for them to connect is through the phone as a phone call. Those phone numbers are there as well. But there may be phone charges for that, just so you're aware. So, but other than that, much love to everybody out there. God bless you all, and keep the prayers up. I got something fancy in the work. I can't really talk about it, but it's going to be a little bit of a trip. And once I get there, and it'll just, that cat will come out of the bag. But for right now, I am going to keep it quiet for as long as I can. I'm going to be meeting some pretty important people, and you'll get to see. It's going to be great. It's going to be super. All right? God bless you all. Thanks you all for your likes, follows, and shares, and your support, your love, and your kindness. I greatly appreciate you all.